Hello, dear friends. This is Dr. Gwen from the Dr. Gwen International Training and Empowerment Academy and host of the iTunes show, The Dr. Gwen Show. I am delighted to be back with you here again today, and we are continuing our discussion on living an empowered life. Now, yesterday we talked about communication, and I shared a story with you that I shared a lot of times throughout my life. We also talked about listening with filters and how sometimes we put on those filters as we listen to other people, and we really don't hear what they have to say or what they're saying to us. Now, I am sharing my experiences so that you ladies can be inspired and empowered. I feel that we all have experiences in our lives that we can share to enrich other people's lives. And you know, life sometimes can be challenging. And if we look at those challenges as opportunities to help us hone our stories, so that we can get those stories out to bless other people's lives, then while we're going through it, it won't seem so dark and so desperate. And so today, living an empowered life comes from several perspectives, as I said yesterday. And we chose communication yesterday, and today I am going to talk about authenticity and really what does that mean? For me, authenticity means I am going to be my true self to the core. I'm going to be the one to step up and to say what is really happening inside of me, regardless of how that's going to look. It's going to mean that I'm not going to say certain words just to have people hear those words and then be something else underneath. That is a stressful way to live life. Whereas I don't feel like I have been in a place where I have said certain things and been something else for an extended period of time. I have been there. I remember back in my early younger years, when certain things happened to me, I wouldn't say exactly how I thought. I wouldn't. I would just try to smooth it over and to make it seem okay, whereas deep down inside of me, there was this conflict, this continuous struggle and fight that was going on in there. And you know what that did? It left me feeling completely torn and powerless. Have you been in a place where you feel like you are powerless? Because thank you for joining me. I really appreciate your being here. Have you been in a place where you feel like you're completely powerless? That you cannot have the strength to express who you are. And so you go about wearing this mask that doesn't represent who you are, and you feel less than. That's really how it feels. And I know I've been there. The time when I began to really express what was going on inside of me authentically, that's when I began to feel better about life. I remember this feeling just was always hanging over me in my gut, as though something was wrong or something was missing, and I really couldn't put my hand on it. And I don't remember the experience I had that woke me up to that. But when I started opening up and discovering that, what I started to do was just speak. Now, that's not necessarily the best way either. I didn't hone my conversations, and I continued that for a while. So while that had the great effect of making me feel happy, what it actually did was that it isolated some people. And so I was a straight shooter. You can count on it. I'm still a straight shooter. And I've learned to say some things a certain way, which is what I'm going to share with you. Hopefully that you can get some insights from my mistakes and my learnings. So, where do I want to begin? We talk about authenticity and the real importance of you feeling a certain way inside and expressing it. And expressing that expression is the thin line where it's going to cause you to feel either connected with the person or separated from the person. And remember a principle I quoted yesterday that says that not Dale Carnegie, but the guy who wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey, he says, seek first to understand. So you want to make sure you're coming from that person's perspective and understanding that. And while you're doing that, it's important to be authentic. So you're not going to hide behind something that you're saying. So let me get to the meat and potatoes of this. I can give you one scenario, one example in my own personal life with one of my kids. And you know, I am generally hot-headed. And I get frustrated at times with what I call foolishness, right? If people are reveling in stuff that I consider is base, I get a little frustrated with that. So one of the conversations I was having with my daughter, one of my daughters, surrounded one Christmas time when she had come. And I had baked this cake and I really wanted her to have a nice big piece. So she and her sister, they were sitting at the table and they were having the cake and they were having a meal. And then she said, I'm going to just have a tiny little piece of that cake. And I said, no. You know, because I wanted to say not a tiny piece. And she didn't allow me to finish, right? And she thought she knew I was going to say what I was going to say. And this was probably based on all of my previous communications with her. And she immediately got flustered and thought that I was going to be down on her to use her fork to cut the cake. Now, I didn't see that. At the same time, her sister had said, don't use the fork to cut the cake. And I had said, no at the same time. So I guess she tied that both together and thought that I was going to talk about the fork and the cake, which was not on my mind. And so we went around and around and around the same lock jam. And you know, that scenario left me limping because I was completely confused about how that conversation went down. And in retrospect, later on, as I started to think about this, we had a conversation, she and I, and what I discovered from that conversation is that she thought that I didn't listen to her when I thought I was listening to her. And so in the same breath, you know, I would try to justify that I was listening to her, and that would make things worse. So what I had to learn to do was to pause and to reflect. Because see, normally when I hear certain things happening like that, I feel a certain burn in my chest, and then my mouth just opens up and I start speaking, which is not good. Are you having that same experience in your relationships, in your communicating? Is that what is happening for you? If that is, then that burn in your chest or in your neck or wherever you feel it is not an indication that your mouth should open. The moment I got that bit of information solid was the moment that I gained some power in my life. See, we're talking about living an empowered life. So what do I mean about that? When I felt that burn, when I feel that burn even now, I know that I don't have to lash out and respond vigorously. I don't. I can experience that feeling. I can let that feeling just flow through me, and it feels crazy, like my neck's pulsating, you're really angry. I can just allow that feeling and acknowledge that feeling. And then I now get an opportunity to choose what I am going to say. So this technique is one that I teach my clients in another situation to overcome their self-limiting beliefs. I call it the PDC technique. Pause. You pause and allow the feeling or allow the thought to come. You differentiate. That is, you don't identify yourself with that. That's not you. That's not who you are. So you differentiate, and then you create. You have an opportunity to create what you want to step into, who you want to become, or in this particular case, what you want to say. So when I use that technique with very, very difficult people, hi, thank you for joining me. When I use this technique with very difficult people, it is completely exhilarating. When I tell you, powerful and exhilarating is how I feel when I get to utilize these techniques. Because it really empowers you and puts you in a position where you are feeling stronger and more powerful. And you no longer have to cut people off because of what you think they're going to say. So those are some tips to help you with your communicating. That authenticity piece is really key. And you're still being authentic in the moment because you're no longer ignoring exactly how you're feeling, but now you select what you're going to say. And what you will say is something to recreate the other person and acknowledge that. I want to share one more story with you with a conversation I was having with another one of my daughters. Hey, Jackie, thank you for joining me. Right, so I had a conversation with her, and I had shared something with one of her friends because I saw a post on Facebook, and as I saw this person post something on Facebook, I immediately triggered my thought to send him a message. So I sent him a message about a transaction. I wasn't even thinking that, I'm overlooking anyone or anything like that. And she became flustered about that I had not mentioned it to her. And that was a sticky situation. So knowing that I didn't purposely set out to say, I'm going to ignore you and tell someone else, I started to justify again, right? I started to say, well, that's really not my thought. And she said, but Mom, can you think about the way I feel? And immediately that warmth came over me. And I started to experience her feeling. I got into her world. And I saw things, no matter what I was saying, I saw things from her perspective, how she felt. And no longer did I want to say, but that's not what I meant. Normally, I probably would have gone on that way. But then I stopped and I said, well, I can understand how you are feeling, having me do that. And, and I know it makes you upset. See, I was recreating her and you didn't feel great about it. And that evoked a smile from her. And that conversation felt beautiful and powerful. You know what? Conversing, living an empowered life means that you're going to achieve the goals and dreams that you have in your life. You're going to enhance the relationships in your life, and you are going to be in that whole process authentically yourself. You cannot live a powerful life unless you are authentically yourself. So if you're going around wearing a mask, being someone else, then you are not being authentic. Don't say one thing while you're feeling something else inside of you, you will never feel powerful. One of the greatest joys that I have is hearing these words from one of my grown kids. You know what she said? She said, Mom, you're one of the most, she didn't say one of, she said, you're the most powerful person I know. Wow, can you imagine that? I was taken aback and very humbled by that. Because, you know, your kids know all of your weaknesses. They know it all. They know your challenges. They know your strengths. They know everything. And to hear those words coming out of her mouth completely humbled me. And I said to her, well, how come you never said that before? And she said, well, you know, you're always feeling it, but because it's your mom or whatever, you just don't say it. But do you want to live an empowered, a powerful life? There's just one single way I know, and that is stepping into your pure, authentic self. Stop trying to live somebody else's dreams. Stop trying to be defined or to have your success defined by someone else, and be completely true and authentic to who you are, because that really is the only way that you're going to step into your most powerful self. Now, I don't know if you have any questions for me at all, but once again, I know a lot of you watch this video afterwards, and I do appreciate that. I am doing a 30-day run to bring my life experiences to bless other women, because you have a life experience just as much as I do, and I want to encourage you to live and to learn and to teach those life experiences, because someone else is waiting for you to show up. I've lived a very powerful, happy, challenging, excruciatingly painful life. All of those things have made me who I am today. And I would never be the woman I am if I didn't have those experiences, good or bad. So what are you going through? How are you going to live your life from an empowered perspective so that you are strong enough for the people in your life, so that you're strong enough to bring those visions and those goals and those dreams to someone else's life, so that you are strong enough to stand on your own 2 feet, to be authentically who you were created to be, that unique, beautiful, bounteous, limitless creature, that you can bring your joys, your pleasure, and everything to yourself. Yes, Jackie, to thine own self be true. If you can't do that, then you can't show up powerfully. You cannot show up powerfully. So if you have any questions, whether you're watching this video later, send me a private message. As I said, I'm very open to talking about a lot of these topics with you. You need a discovery session, and I won't be selling you anything. That is my promise to you.